Well, the United States isn't number 1, isn't number 10. Heck, we aren't even number 20. The Heritage Foundation is out with its annual list of the most free economies in the world.
Singapore, Switzerland, Ireland, Taiwan, and Luxembourg taking the top 5. And America, all the way back at number 25, sandwiched in between the Czech Republic and Israel.
Here with reaction, Americans for Tax Reform President Grover Norquist. So, Grover, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm excited to get your take on this. We are number 25, according to this study, and I was looking at the different metrics that we're rated on, and the U.S. has a score of 0.0 when it comes to fiscal health. Wow. I saw that and went, oh boy. So your reaction, why are we number 25?
Well, Brian and Kelly, we're one of the most powerful, successful countries in the world. Why are we worried about slowing down a bit, about falling down? 100 years ago, Argentina was one of the top 5. Right. And now it's not. And we've seen the 140% inflation and the poverty. You can, step by step, baby step by baby step, walk your way from an open, free, vibrant, growing economy to the Weimar Republic and collapse. So we need to start being worried a while ago, but start now with all the degradation by Biden. Yes, inflation. Yes, spending too much. The massive regulations, the abuse of antitrust. Whenever companies grow, they get attacked by their own government. This is bad news. We're in the wrong direction. We need to turn policy around.
Grover, I remember doing these stories 10, 12 years ago, and at that time, the big issue is, oh my goodness sakes, the United States has fallen out of the top 10. And we were wringing our hands about that. Well, we've gone a long way since then, but if you look at some of the components of this, what really bothers me, I think we all understand the fiscal situation has deteriorated, but you look at things like regulation, for example. That's one of the areas where we've really, especially lately, have really fallen down. Talk about what you think are the most dangerous drivers of this plummet right now.
Right now, the war on energy, the effort to make there be less energy in the United States, that energy which exists to be more expensive, to be episodic. It only works when the sun's going or when the wind blows, rather than there all the time, as regular energy sources are, nuclear, coal, oil, and so on, natural gas. The war on energy is a big piece of it. All the permits you need to do anything at the state, local, federal level, to build a building, to build a road, to build infrastructure, all of these things slow down the United States, make us less competitive. And if you don't want, sometimes it's confusing to compare us to foreign countries because who knows where Canada is. Within the 50 states, you look at the states with regulations and high taxes and that have gone green, 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 New York, California, they're declining from where they once were. Right. Yeah. There are more people living in Florida than New York.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, listen, I just left California. No, for another blue state.
From the kettle to the frying pan.
There you go.
Come on.
But Grover, I also want to get your take on this. So during a recent House testimony, Biden's IRS commissioner declined to admit that having agents work remotely poses a major security risk. Watch.
Nothing to prevent the employee's 19-year-old son walking behind the screen from taking a screenshot of whatever's on the screen, correct?
That would be a violation of that employee's responsibility to protect information. There would be significant consequences for that, and therefore virtually all IRS employees are very rigid in how taxpayer information is handled.
About half of all IRS employees are currently working from home. And to make matters worse, many agents are using their own personal devices instead of government-issued ones. This feels like a no-brainer, Grover, but we've got tax season coming up. Admittedly, I haven't started. But how much should I be worried that people are working from home and they've got their 19-year-old son walking, seeing my personal information, my income?
Well, one, we know that even when they're working in the IRS, they have a bad habit of looking at things they're not supposed to, having those things stolen. We just discovered one person was credited with taking 7,000 different IRS documents out and giving to a left-wing group to attack people like Bloomberg, who had the audacity to run for president against Biden. His entire, history, his economic history, was taken out of the IRS and handed to him. The guy who had 7,900 crimes was charged with one. Werfel does not take your personal data being given to somebody else for political purposes. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And we know that, not looking forward, but looking back to what he has not done. Then, okay, and now this bring your own device. So the IRS agents have your data on their iPad, their iPhone. They walk around with it. They keep it at home. They play with it. They can email it to anybody they want to. This is not government devices.
Right.
These are their own personal devices. The IRS allows that to happen. Werfel should find another job.
Yeah, but he's smiling it all off as he testifies. We got to leave it there,
Yeah.
Grover. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us today.
Good to be with you guys.
All right.